The chamber of the 12 burned with light. Columns of violet stone arched high overhead, carved with the histories of ancient wars. Hollow banners shimmered between them, each representing one of the species that claimed dominion across this stretch of the Orion Arm. The air itself hummed with tension, layered with scents: ozone from the Varan, iron dust musk from the Catheri, the sharp bite of ammonia wafting from the Celia. And there, seated at the far edge of the crescent chamber, was the human delegation. Small,
New.
almost invisible. Captain Elias Ward stood behind his chair, hands clasped, jaw locked as another round of laughter rippled through the council floor. He had heard the same sound since the delegation arrived: mockery hidden in diplomatic smiles, contempt delivered with measured words. Humanity had sent him here to carve a place among the stars, but so far, they were treated as little more than a curiosity, tolerated only because the charter demanded it. At the center podium, armored in glinting crimson plates, stood Kareth Vera, princess of the Catheri, undefeated champion of the arena, heir to a dynasty older than Earth's oldest ruins. Her presence filled the chamber like a storm, her voice a whipcrack across the assembly. "Let the record show," she declared, "that the humans arrive with words but no proof of strength. They claim a place among us, yet what do they bring? Soft bodies, short lives, weapons that mimic ours but lack the spirit to wield them." Scattered applause followed from her allies. Elias's knuckles whitened around the chair. He had expected disdain. He had not expected theater. Kareth turned her helm toward the humans, golden eyes blazing through its visor. Then, with a cruel grin, she raised her blade in salute. "I have refused every suitor among the 12. I will not bind myself to weakness. Hear me well, I shall marry only the one who defeats me. Until then, none are worthy." The words cracked across the chamber like thunder. The crowd erupted, some with admiration, others with amusement. It was a performance she had delivered before. Everyone knew its punchline: none could defeat her. The vow only fed her legend. Elias exhaled slowly. He could almost feel the stares on his skin, alien dignitaries leaning forward, whispering to each other in their own tongues. Humans would remain the butt of every jest, the weakest link in the chain. Unless someone answered. He heard his aides whisper at his side, "Captain, do not." "I accept." The words were not shouted. They did not need to be. In the silence that followed the laughter, they carried like a shot fired in a cathedral. Every gaze in the chamber snapped to him. Some disbelieving, some mocking, a few alarmed. Even his own delegation looked stunned. His aide's mouth opened, then closed again, speechless. Kareth tilted her head. Her grin widened, baring serrated teeth. "Repeat that, human." "I would not mistake bravado for courage." Elias stepped into the chamber's center, boots clicking on the obsidian floor. He raised his chin, voice level. "I said I accept your challenge. If strength is the price of recognition, humanity will pay it. With me." The silence broke into a storm. Shouts rang out in half a dozen languages. The council speaker's wings fluttered furiously as it tried to restore order. "This is irregular," one delegate protested, his scales flashing agitation. "The human species is not yet even recognized as." "All the more reason to prove themselves," Kareth interrupted, laughter shaking her shoulders. "I welcome this. Let the galaxies see how brief their fire burns before it is extinguished." The speaker's mandibles clicked. "Princess, be mindful." "I am mindful," she snapped. "The law of duel binds us all. If the human claims the right, he must be heard. To refuse would dishonor the Catheri." The council chamber filled with murmurs. Elias stood unmoving, heat pounding through his chest, but his face unreadable. Every instinct from his years in uniform told him to measure, to calculate, to wait. But there were moments when hesitation meant extinction. Humanity had been waiting for respect for too long. The speaker sighed, wings folding tight. "So be it. A formal duel will be sanctioned. By the next cycle, the arena of Karzun shall witness combat. Should the human fall, His species forfeits their petition for recognition for a century. Should he prevail? The speaker's voice faltered. Even saying the words seemed impossible. The princess's vow shall be honored, and humanity's petition will stand. Gasps rippled through the assembly. The marriage vow was not metaphor. It was oath, sealed by centuries of Kothari tradition. No matter how absurd the outcome, honor bound her. Kareth saluted again, her blade's edge catching the chamber light. Do not think you have won my respect yet, human. You are clay before fire. But I will break you myself. And when your bones are dust, your people will remember the day they presumed too much. Elias allowed the faintest of smiles to cross his lips. Then I'll see you in the arena. The speaker struck the floor with his staff, ending the session. Delegates filed out, buzzing with the aftershock of what had just been declared. Elias remained still until the chamber emptied enough for him to breathe again. His aide grabbed his arm, eyes wide with panic. Are you insane? You've bound Earth to this. If you lose, then we were never going to stand here as equals anyway. Elias cut him off, his tone clipped. They think us weak. That doesn't change unless someone bleeds for it. The aide swallowed hard, shaking his head. And if you win, you'll be bound to her. Do you even understand what that means? Elias glanced toward the doors where Kareth had vanished, her laughter still echoing in his ears. He straightened his uniform, his face unreadable. One step at a time, he said. And with that, Captain Elias Ward walked out of the council chamber, carrying with him not only humanity's fragile hope, but also the weight of a vow that might change the fate of the galaxy. The human delegation's quarters were quieter than the council chamber, but no less heavy with tension. The walls pulsed faintly with embedded biolights, the architecture borrowed from a dozen species, smooth curves of the cilia, angular joints of the Varen, polished metal floors from the Kothari themselves. It was a place meant for guests, yet Elias felt more like a prisoner inside it. He stood by the viewport, watching the stars wheel across the black as Karzun's twin moons drifted into view. His reflection stared back at him, a man with sharp lines in his face, tired eyes, and the steady calm of someone who had made his choice and could not turn back. Behind him, his aide paced. You've doomed us, the younger man muttered, voice taut. Do you realize what happens if you fail? 1 century barred from petitioning. That's not politics. That's extinction. We can't survive 100 years isolated. Elias turned slowly, his tone flat. And what do you think happens if we refuse? They already dismiss us. We wait another century regardless, only without the fight. This way, at least, we leave a mark. The aide stopped, hands trembling. With your life. Elias didn't answer. He didn't need to. The door slid open with a hiss. Ambassador Halvorsen entered, tall and severe, her silver hair tied back, her robes carrying the seal of Earth's fledgling alliance. She studied Elias, her expression carved from stone. Captain, she said quietly, I should court-martial you for what you've done. He met her gaze, unflinching. But you won't. Her lips pressed thin. She dismissed the aide with a flick of her hand. When the room was empty, she stepped closer, voice dropping low. You've forced humanity onto a blade's edge. If you win, you bind us to the Kothari in a way none of us can control. If you lose, our position is erased for generations. Tell me why I should stand behind you. Elias let the silence stretch before answering. Because survival isn't given. It's taken. They won't hand us respect. They won't hand us a seat at the table. They only understand strength. I don't have to kill her. I just have to prove we're not as fragile as they think. Halvorsen studied him for a long moment. Finally, she sighed. The council has confirmed the duel. Tomorrow at High Cycle, the arena. You'll have 1 night to prepare. She turned to leave, then stopped. Elias, if you fall, history will curse your name. If you prevail, it may curse you just as much. I can live with curses, he said. She left without another word. Hours later, the training deck flickered to life. The room was vast and bare, its surfaces able to mimic gravity, resistance, even atmospheric density. Elias stripped down to his combat kit and activated the hollow sparring system. A towering Kothari figure materialized, its form coded from battle archives. Broad shoulders, digitigrade legs, claws like curved blades. The simulation charged, its strike cleaving the air where his head had been a heartbeat before. Elias rolled aside, breath sharp in his chest. He wasn't stronger. He wasn't faster. Every human advantage would have to come from somewhere else. He pivoted, driving his elbow into the Phantom's midsection, then swept low. The Kothari projection staggered, recalibrated, then lunged again. Its claws grazed his arm, drawing blood even in simulation. A voice called from the observation deck above. "You'll never match them by force." Elias paused, wiping sweat from his brow. An older man leaned against the railing, his presence unexpected but not unwelcome. Dr. Renard, Earth's xenobiology expert, his face lined with years of studying alien anatomy. "You came to give me encouragement?" Elias asked dryly. Renard chuckled. "Hardly. I came to remind you that brute strength is their comfort zone. If you fight them there, you've already lost." Elias deactivated the simulation. "Then where do I fight her?" Renard tapped the railing. "Adaptability. Humans improvise better than any species I've studied. You react, adjust, create in chaos. Kothari training breeds predictability, efficient, lethal, but predictable. If you force her to think outside her patterns, she'll hesitate. That hesitation is your opening." Elias nodded slowly. "So I don't outfight her. I outthink her." "Exactly. You can't beat her at being Kothari. But you can beat her at being human." For the next hours, Elias drilled relentlessly. He forced the simulator into random attack patterns, each more erratic than the last. He practiced misdirection, feints, maneuvers designed not to overpower but to disrupt. Every strike he landed had to count. Every mistake would be fatal. By the time exhaustion pressed him to the floor, sweat pooling beneath him, he felt no closer to victory, but at least he had a plan. Night cycle. The stars above Karzun burned cold, unblinking. Elias sat alone in his quarters, bandaging his arm. His aide had long since gone silent, too frightened to speak. Halvorsen had retired to draft diplomatic contingencies no one believed in. Elias reached into his kit and withdrew a small, worn emblem, his old military insignia, carried through campaigns back on Earth. It reminded him of battles where the odds were no better than tomorrow's. Men and women had fought beside him with nothing but grit and desperation. Many had died, but others had lived because they refused to yield. The door chimed once before opening. Karath herself stepped inside. Elias rose instantly, wary. She wasn't armored, only dressed in the ceremonial garb of her house, though the air around her felt as sharp as a blade. "Strange," she said, circling the room. "Most who face me spend the night drowning themselves in spirits. You train." "Most who face you," Elias replied, "don't think they can win." Her laugh was low, dangerous. Confidence from clay. "Tell me, human, why step forward?" "You knew what my vow meant." "I knew what it meant to do nothing," he said. For the first time, her grin faltered. She studied him, eyes narrowed. "Perhaps you're not as foolish as you look. But tomorrow, the arena won't care for words. Only blood." She turned, her cloak sweeping behind her. At the threshold, she paused. "I almost hope you surprise me. It has been too long since I've bled for victory." Then she was gone, leaving silence in her wake. Elias stood motionless for a long moment before returning to the viewport. The moons of Karzun glowed silver against the dark, and in their light he found not peace, but clarity. Tomorrow, humanity would stand or fall by his hands. And for the first time in centuries, the galaxy would see what it meant to be human. The arena of Karzun was a cathedral of violence. Miles of obsidian stones stretched upward in a perfect ring, tier after tier filled with beings from across the Orion Arm. Billions watched remotely, their feeds carrying every heartbeat, every strike. Above, banners of the 12 rippled in holographic light. At the center lay a circle of polished black floor, etched with runes that glowed faintly red, the Killmark lines of Kothari tradition. Elias Ward stood within that circle. His combat kit felt light compared to Karetha's ceremonial armor, which gleamed like blood under the suns. She carried her ancestral blade, a weapon that had tasted centuries of challengers' defeats. The speaker's voice carried across the arena. By the law of duel, this combat shall decide the matter of honor, vow, and recognition. No quarter. No intervention. Victory by incapacitation, surrender, or death. The crowd roared approval. Kareth raised her blade, saluting her people. Then she pointed its edge at Elias. Do you still wish to stand here, human? Elias adjusted his grip on the short combat staff he'd chosen. If I didn't, I wouldn't have walked in. Her grin widened. Then bleed for me. The gong struck. Kareth lunged like a thunderbolt. Elias sidestepped, barely clearing her blade as it sheared sparks from the floor. The shockwave rattled his bones. He retaliated with a quick strike to her flank, but the blow glanced harmlessly off her armor. She spun, blade sweeping wide. He ducked, feeling the wind of its arc graze his hair. The crowd roared again, half in delight, half in mockery. You move well, Kareth said, circling him. But you cannot harm me. Elias steadied his breathing. We'll see. He shifted footing, feinting left, then darting right. His staff jabbed for the joint beneath her pauldron. Metal rang, sparks flew. She staggered half a step, then laughed. Interesting. Her next strike came faster, sharper, designed to test. Elias blocked, the impact numbing his arm. She pressed, each blow like a hammer. He gave ground, step after step, until his boots kissed the outer kill mark. The crowd roared louder. Karetha's eyes glowed with savage joy. One step more, human, and the arena claims you. Elias's staff whirled, deflecting another blow. He used her momentum, pivoted low, and drove the staff hard into the back of her knee. She faltered, armor groaning. Elias followed with a strike to her ribs. The hit staggered her half a pace. The crowd gasped. Karetha's grin only widened. Clever clay. You think unpredictability will save you. Not save me, Elias said, circling. Beat you. She roared and launched forward again. Faster this time. Her blade carved a furious arc. Elias dropped flat, rolled beneath it, and snapped his staff up into her jaw. The crack echoed. Her head jerked back. Blood traced her lip. The arena fell silent. Kareth touched the blood, then licked it, eyes alight. At last, she whispered. Her next strike nearly shattered his staff. Elias reeled, ribs screaming as the flat of her blade slammed across him. He hit the ground hard, breath gone. She advanced, looming. Stand, human. If you die crawling, you dishonor us both. Elias forced air into his lungs and pushed to his feet. His body ached, but his mind burned cold and sharp. He shifted his grip, one end of the staff low, baiting. Kareth charged again, blade raised. At the last instant, Elias feinted retreat, then spun inside her guard. His staff cracked against her wrist. The blade wavered. He drove forward, ramming the staff into the exposed gap beneath her breastplate. The blow drove her back, armor denting. The crowd roared again, this time not in mockery, but in disbelief. Kareth staggered, then laughed through her blood. Yes, this is battle. She swung again, a killing strike. Elias parried barely in time, his staff splintering. The shock numbed his arms, but he twisted, snapping the broken end into her side. Sparks burst, armor cracked. She dropped to one knee. For a heartbeat, silence held the arena. Elias stood, chest heaving, broken staff raised. His body trembled, sweat blinding his eyes. Across from him, Kareth knelt, her blade half buried in the floor, blood dripping from her mouth. The speaker's voice boomed. The Kothari princess falters. The duel continues until yield or death. The crowd's roar split the skies. Kareth lifted her gaze, golden eyes locked on Elias. And then, she laughed, a sound raw and fierce. You surprised me, human. You truly do. She slammed her fist to the floor, steadying herself. But do not think me beaten yet. Elias tightened his grip, pain screaming through every muscle. Then get up.
She did.
The duel was far from over.